Princess Shivangi began reading all the books one by one. This was the first time she was reading such stories. Until now, she had always read books related to history, warfare, geographical creations, the history of her kingdom, spiritual powers, and the powers of heaven. Her world had always revolved around rules, knowledge, practice, and responsibilities. But when she read these stories, she found them immensely enjoyable. It was a completely new experience for her. These stories contained emotions, friendship, love, sacrifice, laughter, and many experiences that she had only heard about but never felt. Many times, while reading a story, she would smile, and at other times, she would become serious for a while after reading about a character's difficulties. Gradually, these books began to fill her emptiness. The princess asked Neela to bring more books. During this time, their friendship deepened even further. Now, Neela was no longer just a maid. She had become Shivangi's first true friend. They would sit for hours discussing books, talking about their characters, and sharing their thoughts on different stories. Now, Shivangi began to treat everyone in the palace well. Initially, everyone hesitated to talk to her or approach her, but Shivangi's efforts gradually made a place in their hearts. People began to feel that the princess was truly changing. She was no longer as harsh as before. Now, everyone in the palace started to talk to her affectionately and began to find new ways to make her happy. Someone would tell her amusing incidents from the city, while another would share stories from their village. Someone would tell her about festivals, while another would recount their childhood mischiefs. Shivangi also mingled with everyone. She would ask them about stories, tales of the city and the outside world, and everyone would eagerly explain everything to her in detail. For her, the world outside the palace was like an unknown book, with every page holding a new mystery. Hearing all this, Shivangi's desire to learn more about these things and to go outside the palace began to grow. Many times she would stand by the window, looking towards the distant city, wondering what that world would be like, where common people live, laugh, celebrate, and live life on their own terms. In this way, more than 2 months passed. Time flew by unnoticed. Days gradually went by, and Shivangi's life began to feel much more peaceful and pleasant than before. During this time, Shivangi did not try to meet the Maharaja even once. She did not feel the need to talk to him or go before him. She always stayed in the palace, and whenever she got time, she would go and sit by her mother's shrine. The atmosphere there gave her peace. The tranquility surrounding her, the gentle rustle of the wind, and the memories of her mother provided her with a strange sense of calm. There, she would quietly share all her feelings with herself. Many times she would even fall asleep there. Neela would come and wake her up to take her back to the palace. In this way, her time passed. Now she had started to feel very happy. She was getting to see, hear, and learn a lot of new things. This realization felt very good to her. On the other hand, the Maharaja's restlessness was increasing day by day. Outwardly, he appeared as calm and serious as before. He carried out all the state affairs on time, discussed with ministers, attended the Justice Assembly, and made important decisions for the kingdom. But within his mind, a storm was raging that no one could see. He said nothing to anyone, but every night he had the same terrifying dream. A girl's head was being cut off, and she was repeatedly calling him father. Her screams filled with pain echoed in his ears. The fear and despair in her eyes made him restless. Every time the dream ended there, and the Maharaja would suddenly wake up in a panic. His breaths would become rapid. Many times his clothes would be drenched in sweat, but the strangest thing was that he could never clearly see who that girl was. Yet for some reason, hearing that voice would stir unbearable pain in his heart. Moreover, the princess had not come to meet him even once in 2 months. He waited for her every day, but every time he was met with only disappointment. At first, he did not want to admit that he had gotten used to Shivangi's visits. But now, as she was not coming regularly, he began to feel that absence every day. Many times his gaze would unconsciously drift towards the door. He would think that perhaps Shivangi would come in now, but the door would open and a servant or minister would walk in. Each time, the hope that had risen in his heart would shatter. One day, the Maharaja had to go to another kingdom for some work. Everyone in the palace was busy preparing for his departure. The soldiers were overseeing the arrangements. the servants were loading necessary items into the chariots. The ministers were giving final instructions related to the journey. The entire palace was filled with activity. In the morning, the Maharaja was fully prepared to depart. As he reached the main door of the palace, his gaze kept searching for someone around. He himself could not understand whom he was waiting for, but his heart was looking for a familiar face. Yadavji noticed this. Having been with the Maharaja for years, he could easily understand his emotions. He immediately realized whom the Maharaja was waiting for. So he gently stepped forward and said, "Maharaj, the princess has not come to bid you farewell today. She said she is a bit busy." Upon hearing this, the Maharaja felt a strange sadness. For a moment, the expression on his face changed, but in the next moment, he composed himself. Yet he could not understand why he was feeling this sadness. He looked once more at the place where the princess would always stand to bid him farewell. That spot was empty today, and that emptiness descended into his heart as well. Earlier, whenever the Maharaja went out, Shivangi would stand there. She would bid him farewell with all her heart. She would pray for his success and safety during his journey. She would stand there until his chariot left the main gate of the palace. But this time, that did not happen. There was no farewell, no smile. No, "Come back safely, father." Only silence. The Maharaja's mind began to swirl with the princess's words and her changed behavior. He started to remember the day when Shivangi had called him Maharaja instead of father. That formal tone, that distance, that coldness. Everything seemed to come alive before him again. Thinking about all this, he became even more despondent. Then he quietly sat in his chariot and departed. The chariot slowly rolled out of the palace gate. But this time, he felt as if he was leaving something very important behind. Yadavji's concern. The Maharaja's restlessness was understood by Yadavji. But he could do nothing, because somewhere the Maharaja himself was responsible for this distance. He had ignored the princess's emotional loneliness for years. And now, the result of that distance stood before him. The gap between the princess and him was gradually widening, and perhaps it was no longer as easy to bridge it as before. At that moment, the princess was sitting by her mother's shrine. A deep peace enveloped the surroundings. A gentle breeze brushed against the branches of the trees, and the rustling of dry leaves made the serene atmosphere even more profound. Sunlight filtered through the trees and fell on the shrine, as if nature itself was covering that place with its affection. Shivangi sat there, deep in thought. Her eyes were fixed on the shrine, but her mind wandered through countless memories of the past. She remained silent for a while. Then she softly said, "Mother, you know, whenever the Maharaja went out, we would get ready and go to the gate. We would bid him farewell and pray for his safety." Her voice was soft, but the pain of years could be clearly felt in it. She tried to bring a slight smile, but that smile faded the next moment. Then she spoke. But he never said anything, just told us to go back, and left. As she said this, a slight moisture filled her eyes. Old scenes seemed to come alive before her. That little Shivangi, who would get ready hours in advance, who would go to bid farewell to her father with great enthusiasm, who was just waiting for a loving word from him, but every time, she was met with only silence. For a few moments, silence prevailed there. Then she took a deep breath and softly said, "Therefore, we have decided. Now we will go as far away from him as possible. Very far." There was determination in her words, but the pain hidden behind that determination was also clearly felt. "He does not need us at all. Soon he will meet his beloved daughter Priya, and he will completely forget us, just like he forgot before." As she said this, her voice choked. She immediately lowered her gaze, but the pain that had accumulated in her heart began to come out in words. "But we cannot see all this again. Therefore, we must leave here as soon as possible." Her fists clenched unconsciously, as if she was trying to keep herself strong. Saying this, her eyes became moist. A few tears rolled down her cheeks, but this time she did not try to stop them. She sat quietly for a while. Then she wiped her tears, and slowly got up and walked towards her room. Since Shivangi's rebirth, she had been trying to find out about her mother. But she had not found out anything, no clues, no one who could tell her about her mother in detail, so she was disappointed. But she had not given up. There was still hope within her. She believed that one day she would surely get answers to all her questions related to her mother. Soon, the princess's birthday was approaching, and Priya would enter the palace and meet the Maharaja. As this thought crossed her mind, a different sparkle emerged in Shivangi's eyes. She remembered every event from her past life. She knew what was going to happen next, and this time she wanted to be prepared. Thinking this, Princess Shivangi began to devise a new plan. If she wanted to take her revenge, then she must first make herself very powerful. So powerful that in the future, no one would dare to consider her weak. She needed to elevate her spiritual powers to a higher level. She would have to work harder than ever before. Her spiritual power was much greater than that of other children her age. There were two reasons for this: her being a princess, and her hard work. But Shivangi knew that it was not enough. The coming time would demand more strength, patience, and wisdom from her. The princess was lost in these thoughts. Just then, Neela came running. Joy was clearly visible on her face. Her breaths were a bit quick, as if she had brought some very big news. The princess eagerly asked, "Why are you so happy, Neela?" "What happened?" Neela excitedly said. "Today is the last day of the festival, right? And today a lot of things happen in the city." Her eyes were shining with excitement. She kept talking without stopping. Everyone eats together, dances and sings, stays happy and gives gifts to each other. Because this festival comes only once a year, the people celebrate it with great pomp. Hearing Neela's words, the princess became excited. A curiosity immediately arose in her mind. She became restless to know more. The more Neela talked about the festival, the more unique it all seemed to the princess. She had heard about this festival before, but she had never paid attention to it, because at that time, her entire focus was only on studies, practice, and gaining the king's approval. But this time, everything was different. She began to wish to go there and see it for herself. Images of the city's colorful streets, the crowd of the festival, the laughter of people, and the excitement began to form in her mind. So the princess eagerly asked, "Will you take us there?" And with this question, a new chapter of their lives was about to begin. But would the growing distance between the king and Shivangi separate them forever? Or would fate twist their relationship again? Why was Shivangi now realizing that she would have to go away from the palace? Was it just an attempt to avoid pain? Or was there another reason behind it? How was this festival going to bring a new turn in Princess Shivangi's life? Was it just an ordinary celebration? Or the beginning of some unknown game? To find out, read the next chapter.